This is Walk Talk with Nancy.
Debate, belief, lifestyle, strengthen family bonds, hear from special guests, future.
Walk Talk with Nancy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Walk Talk. Welcome to Walk Talk. All right, today we have a very interesting show, and we are going to cover something that we all probably have been waiting for, especially if you are parents. Oh, yes. We've been waiting for this for a very long time, and it is our back to school series for Walk Talk. Okay, so I know right now you're counting days. If your children have not yet gone back to school, you're counting days, you're counting moments, you're counting the seconds. You're like, is it a time yet? You're like a kid that is on a trip that's constantly asking, are we there yet? Yes, that's where we are as parents all over the country, because these kids done ate us out of a house and a home. Our light bills have gone up, water bills have gone up, just that constant, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the summer plan? Listen, I've been through it this summer. I don't know. I think for me, it's because my kids have gotten older. Because back then, I could have entertained them with any nonsense, right? I could have just like, okay, we're going here, we're going there, we're going to the store, we're going for some ice cream, and that would have sufficed. And I think what happened is we are definitely at that place where they are getting bigger and bigger by the minute. So the little, out the door quick trip to satisfy their need for boredom is out the window for me. Like my kids are ranged from the ages of my younger ones that are still home with me are ranging from 9, 11, and 12. So yes, they're at that age where little entertainments is not gonna cut it, right? I have to put out some big bucks to entertain these kids, and it's shopping and movies and things. Yeah, so we are very happy that they are heading back to school. And I'm not sure where you're watching the show, but here in South Florida, in Miami, where I am at, school won't be starting till the 13th of August. So we still have a little time left. But in the meantime, we are on this. Are we there yet? No, said, right? Okay, so like I said, we are going to have a really, really great show today. So stay tuned, and we will be right back with Walk Talk. Stay tuned.
After reading The Fight Within is Won by the Spirit, my life completely changed. It's a journey to healing, and you deserve it too.
Luxury is an entrance. Step into the glow. Sophisticated and bold. I feel completely sexy. Shop DYS Collection.
Okay, so let's continue with our show. So as I was stating tonight, the show is going to be focusing on back to school, kids, mental health for children. We're going to address the things that we know for sure that goes on in the schools, that goes on amongst friends, that goes on amongst parents, and so on and so forth, right? So let's first attack children as they are growing up and they're experiencing new things, especially new friends, and as they go back to school. So, and this is like the nitty gritty of it all when it comes to, kids going, back to that environment where they spent most of their time, right? They're in school for 8, 9 hours. And if they are in activities, they're there for 10 hours at times. So they really just come home to sleep, eat, and start it all over again. So with that said, this is the most crucial time for our children, is that those hours that they spend in school, right? Mind you, one of the things that they have to deal with every day nonstop are friends. All type of friends. Guy friends, girlfriends, teachers, administrators, like they meet everyone there under this roof called the education system, right? Their school, their place of education. One of the things we as parents, we hope and we pray all the time is, Lord, help my kids to make healthy friendship. Lord, help my kids to be able to stay focused and not, do things or be involved in things that are, first of all, not of God. First of all, are mind altering. Right? First of all, being around certain people that has different mindsets, different thought process than they do. There's this saying that we grew up with, say, tell me about your friends and I tell you who you are. And that is like, back then I used to be like, that's not true because I have my own mind. I have my own thing. And this is me, growing up thinking that I knew it all. I had it all figured out. But as I grew up and I became an adult, it was very clear that this saying was actually the truth. If I hang out with anybody for more than a couple of hours in the day, I start to think like them. I even start to walk like them, talk like them. So it's that is that thing that we as parents, we have to protect the most, and we have to be the most vigilant about is the friendships that our children are making while they are in school. You're like, okay, Nancy, these kids are in school all day. How do I know what type of friendships that they're making or who their friends are, or, like what they're talking? What are they saying at school? Like, how do I even put a cap on that or have any control on that? Right. And I mean, it is definitely a hard task. It is definitely a hard task. It is not easy at all for you to know every intricate thing that your child is doing or going through. Especially nowadays, we have this big bully thing and this school fights, and it is just absurd. I mean, you go on social media, not alone you're seeing adults fighting over dumb stuff, like really crazy nonsense. I'm scrolling and it's like two grown women or two grown men fighting over nonsense, and the children are around and they're watching these things. So imagine now they take that and they bring it to the school, and then now you have this whole social media thing where now they're recording it to get views and to get likes, and the kids are sharing it amongst each other. It's just absurd. It's just really truly absurd the way that this whole bully thing has gone and now it has entered our school system. So with that said, how do you protect your kids from not being involved and getting involved with the wrong friends, the wrong people that would have them make those bad decisions? Like I said, it's not easy, but we have to do our parts as parents, right? We got to do our due diligence as parents to know, okay, who are your friends? And ask those questions. Who are your friends? What are their names? What activities are they in? Do they have parents? Do they have both mom and dad? Are they a single mother, single father raising them? What kind of conversations they have. And sometimes you don't have to be so straightforward and like you have a 21 question list. It could just be simple, conversations. One of the ways that I figure these things out with my kids, I will do it like over, they come and they laid up next to me and they're talking, and my kids are pretty much verbal, especially my daughters. They really verbal about the things that's going on in their lives at school. I don't know why. Maybe I seem like a cool mom or something. I don't know. But they're very verbal about, what's going on in school. They'll come, they'll be like, Mom, guess what happened today? And they'll just, share with me, and what I do is, as a parent, is I don't like, stay there and start judging immediately. Like, oh my God, that's a wrong friend and you should not. No, I literally take myself and bring myself down from that parenting role and into that friendship role. And that would be like my number one go-to ways of figuring out what's going on with my children. Like I literally would, tone my motherly voice and sound like that friend voice, right? Like, hey girl, what's going on? What happened today at school? Everything good? And then they're like, yeah, everything good. Like, okay, so any drama happened today? Because I know your school is full of drama. And they will say, excuse me, guys. And they will say, you know what? Yes, mom. This is what happened. Excuse me. They will say, yes, mom, this is what happened. And this is what took place. And they would just divulge all the information. Yeah, they'll do that. Right. So that would be my number one go-to, is to literally sit down at dinner table while you're watching a movie, while you're enjoying your little one-on-one time with them, and have that little conversation on what's going on, how is it going, what's popping, whatever the language, the lingo is. For that season, right? Whatever that slang is, trying to figure it out and ask them what's going on with you. And this is one of the ways that they will open up and start talking about what's going on in their lives at school. And you can find out what the teachers are saying, what the students are saying, what the faculty is doing, what the administrative is doing. And this is how you would know what's going on. So let's take a break and we will come back to part 2 on how to get ready for the back to school 2026. All right. Okay. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I love how this DYS collection belt instantly elevates any look. The quality of the leather and that gold buckle detail are just stunning. I wear my DYS belt all the time. It goes with so many different outfits. Plus, it is incredibly comfortable.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and get right in the nitty-gritty. Part 2. How do I know what my kids are going through when they're not talking, right? They're in school, they're being bullied, situation is happening. You can see the change in their composure. You can see the change in their attitude. You can see the change, in their lives. You can see something is going on. What do you do then when they're not telling you and they're not being verbal and they're being distant? How do you handle that? Well, for me, I have a system. First of all, in my home, whether it's a tablet, a phone, computer, laptop, whatever it is, I have the passwords of everything and everybody in my home. Okay. Except for my kids having access to my phone and my personal things and my husband's things. But of course, my husband and I, we share password. We have each other's password for everything. But the kids, they have a rule. They have to give me their password to every single a hardware that they have. That's the rule to my house, right? I write them down. I keep them somewhere. So at any time, I just grab a phone, I grab the tablet, I grab the laptop, and I just go digging. That's the rule to my house. Even if I didn't buy it, what I said, if I bought it, it's mine. I'm just letting you borrow it. Like that's my, mentality in the home. But even if I didn't buy it, because sometimes they're gifts from other people, if they're in my home, I need to have access to them. This has been my rule forever and ever since my oldest son, that is now 27, was a kid. Right. So this was one way of me finding out what was going on without them speaking, because children talk and they talk amongst themselves. They talk with their friends. They speak about the things that are bothering them. They speak about their little crushes and their little things. So, most times, you might have the little slick ones. They'll go and send a message and delete it, right? But you'll have those little things in between, those little innuendos, those little conversations. You can pick up on what's really going on, even though there are messages that would have been deleted. So this would be one of the ways that you could definitely find out what's happening with your children when they're not being verbal. Another way that you can find out is if you know their friends, right? If you know who their friends are and who they're associated with, you have their number, you have a way of speaking to them. You ask them like, hey, your homie been acting weird lately. Like, what's going on with him? And they'll be like, I don't know. And then it's kids. You can outsmart a kid to talk. Right? You can outsmart a kid to talk. So it's just a matter of your approach, right? So with that said, contact, of the friend, and so on and so forth. And lastly, again, if the kids are in school and they're amongst teachers all day, for me, I have contacts for all of my children's teachers. Like I have them on my phone, not just the school number or the app that you keep communication with, which is great. But I try, if possible, if they will share with me, I'd like to have their personal phone numbers as well, right? So that's just my thing. It's not everybody's thing, but it's my thing. So when something is going on with my children and I can't find out through the phone and I can't find out through through friends and colleagues or whatever, I contact the teacher. I said, hey, this kid has been acting a little weird. Is everything okay in the classroom? What's going on? And we have that communication back and forth. I have teachers that calls me, all the time about, not bad things, but if there's a little change in the composure, a little change in the attitude, they'll be like, hey, Miss Bazile, this, something going on. What's going on here? And we'll try to figure it out together. Whether she speaks to the kids, I speak to the kids, we try to figure it out. And so we can get the best results for these kids. I mean, guys, again, these teachers are like second parents to your kids. They are crucial to the upbringing of your kids. They're with your kids all day. All day. They literally can form the thoughts of your children all day. This is who they're in and out of their classrooms. They see how they're living. They see how they dress. They see their hair. They see their nails. They see their attire. This is who they are watching day in and day out, 5 days a week for 8 to 10 hours of the day, depending on your school system. So imagine that. So you kind of are in a co-parenting situation with your teachers, with your children's teachers. This is a co-parenting thing. So, it's not just drop off your kids and like, hey, whatever, they're in school. No, you should, as a parent, find out who these teachers are, go to the school and speak to them, go to the open houses, go to the events that the school is having, speak with them, like shake hands. Don't just like, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so mom. No, sit down and say, hey, I'm so-and-so mom. This is my phone number. This is a way to contact me. Although they have these papers and they have all their information, but make it personal. That way you're on their mind. They're like, okay, this is a parent that cares for their child and they want to make sure that they know all things and everything. So I'm going to make sure that I prioritize this parent when it comes to this child. Okay, so that is the second way that you can communicate with your teachers and with your kids when it comes to back to school communication and bullying and so on and so forth. All right, so we're going to take another break and we will be right back with part 3. All right, see you later.
I am thrilled to announce the new DYS Collection catalog. DYS Collection is more than just fashion. It is about making a statement. Discover the ultimate brand to declare exactly who you are. Explore our exotic new styles today. I am thrilled.
Alrighty, and welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so now we are going to enter the part 3 of the segment, okay, of the show. Now, we often see that our kids are going through things, right? They're going through things, rather it's mental, physical, emotional. There's something brewing, there's something going, especially if they're coming from a household where there is abuse, where it's unhealthy. This reflects in the school. This shows up with the teachers. This shows up with their friends. Sometimes when the bully is acting up, there's something, underlying situation that is going on. There is always something that is sparking that type of behavior. Sometimes it is what they see that is happening. So you might say, okay, Nancy, my kids are very healthy. They're in the right state of mind. There's nothing going on with them. But there's still something that is is taking their focus from learning or whatever. So we never really know what the cause is. Sometimes, again, like I said, it's something that they have observed, right? It's something that they have seen that has triggered certain reactions, certain response, certain thought process, certain way of being or thinking. So it's really not their fault per se, okay, on what's going on. Is just something that we have not picked up on or have not addressed. So in my book, right, the fight within is won by the spirit. I hope that everybody got their copy already, but if not, like I said before, you can get your copy on Amazon, or you can call me 305-910-7767 for your signed copy. So this is a healing book for everyone that has gone through some type of abuse one way or another. Rather it is mental, emotional, physical, no matter the age that you are in, no matter, your sex, whatever it is. If you went through some type of abuse and you're looking for healing, yes, get you this book and it will be a great deal of help for your situation. Okay, so on chapter 11 is where I actually concentrated on generational curses and passing down hurt and passing down burdens and passing down pain and so on and so forth. So when you have a child that is coming from a broken home, that is coming from a broken marriage, that is coming from an abusive situation, at times it might not show up immediately in that child's life. It might take months, years, whatever, but there is usually a subtle sign to say that that child has been going through something or has affected them in some way, right? For me, I really try to take my time to help my children heal and put them in a safe environment after I got out of my situation. So this is why I can speak on this, because this is something that I know I lived and I've been, part of. So on chapter 11, the chapter is called The Lineage of the Unspoken Curse. So trauma does not like to die alone. If left unaddressed, it acts like an invisible toxic inheritance passed down from one generation to the next. In families where abuse, control, and psychological terrors have been normalized, the patterns repeat with almost a mechanical precision. The abused child frequently grows up to becoming either the oppressor or the magnet for another oppressor, copying the exact relational blueprint they watch from the family altar. When you pack your bags and you remove yourself and perhaps your children from an abusive home, you are doing something far larger than changing your physical address. You are engaging in high level spiritual and psychological warfare known as generational boundaries breaking. However, the reality of post trauma parenting can deeply be overwhelming. Many mothers find themselves safely out of an abusive environment, yet frozen in the state of terrifying hypervigilant regarding their children. You look at your children and wonder, did the screaming permanently damage their little hearts? Am I accidentally passing down my own anxiety and panic to them? How do I teach them what is healthy relationship and what it looks like when I've never truly experienced one myself? So you might catch yourself overreacting to ordinary sibling conflicts with a spike of panic, mistakenly viewing their normal childhood arguments through the lens of the terrifying domestic rage that you just escaped. Or conversely, you might struggle with a paralyzing passivity, finding it's difficult to enforce healthy rules because you are terrified of looking like the controller who governed your past. So we as parents, we go through this, right? Because of the abuse that we have gone through and we don't want to pass it down to our children, we limit ourselves to what we can say, do, or react or act. We tend to say, oh my gosh, I don't want to put this child through the same situation that I did. Or did what happened traumatize this child so much that I cannot even parent this child properly as we move on into our lives, our new lives, and so on and so forth. So with that said, I am one that, and you will see more about it. You get the book and you'll read it. On chapter 11, it will talk about the importance not only healing for the child, but also healing for you as you parent, as a ex-abusee, right? So the trauma that the kid went through that you're not aware of could be from that abusive relationship. And once they were to take that to the school, they either become one or the other, the abuser or the abusee, the bully or the one being bullied. And very often we won't find out until we get that call from the school, until we get that, call from another parent, until we get that, your sibling, auntie, or uncle calling you and said, hey, something's going on with your child. Or even at home, you will see the actions and the things that this child is doing in the house. I saw a video recently of this child that is just extremely, extremely, extremely rude. I don't think rude is even the proper word. Many of you probably have seen it. This son, he probably not more than 13 years old. I don't even think he's that age. And the way that he speaks to his mother is so off. Even my husband and I, like, we're at the point, like, when we see the post come up, I just like scroll right through it now. I don't even want to hear it because it gets me so angry. But then when I analyze the situation, I'm like, okay, for a mother to allow a son to behave in this matter is only because she have been through that situation and she sees it as acceptable. That has to stop. That has to stop, parents. Whenever we see a child act and react immediately, it needs to be like caught on, addressed, fixed immediately, right? I am a Bible mom. So I am that spoil the rod, spoil the child type of mentality. And with that said, very little I will let just slide. Like, like my oldest sons, tell me all the time, Mom, you got soft. You got soft, Mom. Like certain things I just couldn't get away with, and I couldn't. And I think with growing up and becoming a mature mother, I tend to see the things that are life changing in a child's life and things that is just normal development and having a thought process and having being able to address a situation, have a discussion, and not having to attack that child for expressing themselves, right? So for things that if my oldest sons would say to me back in the day, I'd be like, huh? And now my younger kids are saying almost the same thing. And I'm like, okay, I understand your point of view. My reaction is different. But even then, there has to be that level that where you're like, no, this is not acceptable. This is right here is a no. This we need to address it either with speaking, with a counseling, or with the rod. So that is just my point of view. Don't take it, okay? But this is just where we are in this life, because right now social media is taking over, guys. Social media is taking over our children between all the different platforms. I don't need to list them. They listen to these videos, they watch them all day. They're on their tablets, they're on their phones. They are, apart from school having their mind, and, students and teachers and everything else having their mind, these little things right here, these little things have their minds, right? So us as parents, we need to say to ourselves, okay, what I went through is what I went through. You don't have to go through it. The abuse I went through is what I went through, but this don't have to be your future. You don't have to be an abusee, or you don't have to be an abuser. You can definitely live a life that is pleasing in any and every situation that you are in. So sit down and speak with your children. Try to find out what's going on, like I said before, and just address all of the different things that you see going on in your life and in your children's lives, the changes that are happening. Okay, so we're going to take our very last break, and we will be back with our final thoughts and conclusion for our back to school series. Well, segment. All right, see you soon. We'll be right back.
Own your sharp, sleek, bold, luxe, old, clear, fine, stand out. Shop DYS today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Walk Talk. All right, guys. So, last thoughts, conclusion for tonight's show. We've addressed our children being back to school, the influences of teachers, peers. We addressed bullying, abuse. We've addressed social media. We've addressed all the things that really is right now forming and tailoring and, raising our kids when we're not around, right? We've addressed all of those. So what is the final say, Nancy? Like, what do we do as parents, especially for these new kids, this generation kids? They are on another level. How do we raise these kids in this day and age? What do we do as parents, millennial parents, to raise these Generation Zs and how? A lot of patience. Thank you, Holy Spirit. A lot of patience. Because right now, more than ever, of course, as always, But I think more than ever, the spiritual attack on these kids are just by far the worst I've ever seen. With technology alone, what they're being exposed to, what they are, seeing and talking about, the conversations that I hear these kids are having sometimes. And I'm like, this is far beyond your thought process. Like certain things my 9-year-old would bring up. And I'm like, where you heard that from? Like, I didn't know about that until I probably was like 13, 14, right? I'm laughing because I remembered when I was 11, and this is like sidetrack, guys. I was about 11 and I started my womanhood. And I remembered my mother told me, oh, if a boy so much as touch your thigh, you will get pregnant. So I walked around from the time I was 11 till probably 13. I walked around thinking, don't touch me, don't come near me. I don't want to get pregnant. So with this day and age, you have kids that are like 8 years old, 7 years old, already know about the reproductive system. They will tell you exactly what happens, how a person gets pregnant. And, they'll explain it to you like, and then you're sitting there like, what? But this is the age that we live in, where our kids are really getting educated by this. They're educated by this. And then when they're not being educated by this, they're sitting in a classroom with an adult that has their own thought process, that has their own upbringing, that has their own way of life, that has their own gender of preference. And they're the ones that are in front of your kids for 8 to 10 hours a day, for 5 days a week. How do you fight with that? How do you fight with that? Well, I only have one answer for you, and that is through prayer. I don't care how many times you go through your kids' phones. Like I say, they will delete stuff that they probably think you might see. I don't care how much you sit down and you talk to them, you talk to their friends, or you talk to their teachers. As I stated before, those are great things to apply, right? In the lives of raising and bringing up your children. But I don't care how many times you do that. You will never really know what's in their hearts and what's in their thoughts. So how do you do this? And it is through prayer. Prayer. God knows everything. God is the one that's omnipotent. Everywhere. Omnipresent. He knows the thoughts and he sees it all. So, who else would be a better source to know what's going on with your children? Who else would be a better source to know what's going on in their mind and to even lead them and push them to come and speak to you for those things? It's God. It's God. Through the Holy Spirit, something can be happening with your children, and you will know. God will reveal it to you. And that is prayer, consecration, fasting for your kids. Like right now at my church, Kingdom Living United, if you don't have a church, look us up. We're in North Miami. You know, we are having a fast for our children, 7-day fast, because they're going back to school. This is what we have to do as parents. Seek God in this situation, because right now the enemy got them. Like everywhere they turn and everything they do, they're being influenced by something of this world. What they're listening to, the music, the movies, the shows, they're being influenced. So the only one that can step in and be that father to the fatherless, be that mother to the motherless, be that parent when you're not around, be the one that's listening and watching what the teachers and the friends and the, administration, with the staff, with the bestie and the one that is omnipresent to know and to hear is God. So stay in prayer for your kids. Stay in fasting for your kids. Keep them going to church. Trust me, they have the energy for everything else. They can have the energy to be in church for an hour or two. Take them to church. And even if you see they're on their phone and they laid out and they sleepy, they're listening. They hear. They hear. Keep them in the things of God as much as possible. And when you do your part, God will do his part. Because one thing for sure, they will not depart from it. One thing for sure, when they know the things of God, certain decisions, certain thought process, certain things, even them on their own, on their selves, they'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to do that, because this right here, my mom won't like it and my dad won't like it, and this going to turn out bad. Like the Holy Spirit will help them to make the right decision. So I'm sure you guys are phenomenal parents, and you go to heaven and back for your kids. But this is one of the most important steps you can take to make sure that as your kids go into the new school year, they go stronger, wiser, and covered. And that is to pray with them and over them as they enter this school year. All right? All right, guys. Okay, so I'm not going to hold you more. This is our show for tonight. I pray that it bless you and it has you prepared for the upcoming school year, this 2026-2027 school year. All right, everybody, have a blessed one and see you all next Thursday with Walk Talk. Bye.
This is Walk Talk with Nancy.
Debate, belief, lifestyle, strengthen family bonds. Hear from special guests. Future.